It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a former star of the basketball ranks. He grew up in Chicago Heights, Illinois, and was named a Parade Magazine All-American during his high school playing days. He then played for legendary coach Al McGuire at Marquette University, where he was named a second-team All-American. He then spent 5 years in the NBA, playing for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Kansas City Kings. Since retiring, he has served in various volunteer and professional capacities related to prep, collegiate, and professional basketball. He is currently the Senior Career Counselor for the National Basketball Players Association. We are talking about Dr. Lloyd Walton. He joins this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN right now with your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday. Welcome to another live stream edition of Listen In with KNN. I'm, of course, your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. The show is presented by Fox Sports Radio, 1340 AM and 96.9 FM. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have a very special guest joining me. We'll talk lots of basketball, but I'd be remiss if I did not start the show without talking about what's going currently on in this country. I know 2020 has been just a whirlwind year, lots of downs, few ups, but I did want to make sure I paid honor and paid tribute to some of those that we recently lost. I first want to, of course, pay tribute to the late, great Hall of Fame coach, Lloyd Olson, who, of course, built Arizona into a national power program, helped to guide the Wildcats to the school's only NCAA championship. He recently died at the age of 85. Of course, the one I think that we're still reeling over is, of course, we lost actor Chadwick Boseman, a man that we know very well here in the Washington, D.C. area as a graduate of the real HU, Howard University. And, of course, he helped to gain much fame as he brought the movie Black Panther to life, which is a phenomenal experience and just amazing. I think it's still surreal that he lost. He, of course, was battling colon cancer since 2016. Amazing that he was still able to film so many movies and films while battling just cancer. I can't imagine. I think we're still trying to get over that. So I wanted to make sure we pay respects to him. It's just super sad. And then also, of course, losing him on Jackie Robinson Day, which was recently on August 28th. Of course, they had to move it from their April 15th date because of COVID-19. And of course, the baseball season was shifted. And then if that wasn't enough, of course, early this morning, we recently learned that we lost 18-year NBA vet Cliff Robinson, 53 years old, an all-star in 94. Of course, he had won Sixth Man of the Year in 93. Just an amazing career at UConn. So I want to make sure I rest in peace. And I know the country is still healing from the shooting of Jacob Blake. So just lots going on. We'll make sure we touch on it in the show. But I did want to make sure that I paid honor and paid tribute to those that have lost their lives. Again, I know it's been a rough week. We just celebrated 8/24. Of course, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant, but we are going to hopefully bring some smiles and bring some joy on this show with my very special guest. Without further ado, I would like to welcome in my very special guest, who goes none other than the name Dr. Lloyd Walton. He is a senior career counselor at the NBPA, of course, the National Basketball Players Association. He is a former Marquette University basketball star. So yes, we're going to talk the latest and greatest in college hoops. Of course, he was a point guard on some of Al McGuire's greatest teams at Marquette University. Just a true icon, a true man that knows his basketball and knows his hoops. He is none other than Dr. Lloyd Walton. Dr. Walton, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I'm great. Great. You know, during these very trying times, it's a special time to be feeling okay, not being so frustrated and stressed out. So I'm good. And
I'm
yourself.
good.
And yourself.
I think I'm doing okay. You know, with all that's been happening, it's like you do have to take some mental health breaks, kind of de-stress yourself from the world. But that was going to be my first question to you. How are you feeling and doing? There's been a lot in the world, but already, Dr. Walton, I love your high energy and spirits. I think we could all use some of that because 2020 has just been a year, Dr. Walton, just a lot happening. And just this week alone, it feels like so much has happened in this week, but we're going to bring joys and smiles. So I'm glad. So what have you been up to, Dr. Walton, lately?
Look, I'm still busy counseling players, in communication with them on a regular basis throughout the week.
Yeah.
Obviously, having some real thought about how our players united to come together and think about the platform they have and how to actually use that to benefit so many others.
Right.
So I had a lot of thought about that. Had a lot of conversation with different players about that. And the pandemic has been going for 6-7 months, just thinking about that on a regular basis. You know, I just came from the gym, you know, had to have a mask on. Everybody was social distancing and what have you. But, you know, it's something that I still has not become normal to me. Now, maybe to some other people it has.
Yeah.
You know, I have 4 or 5 masks in the car, but I still have gotten out of the car and had to turn back around and go get my mask, right?
Yes.
But you know,
otherwise you can't go anywhere, right? They're not going to let you in.
Right. So I just think that unfortunately this is, and I don't even think we've gotten to our new normal. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're still in the process of getting there, but we've always been able to adjust, make the necessary, I guess, reconfiguration of our lives and what have you.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be all right. We're just going to have to endure, make the discipline and sacrifice and do what we need to do so we can get there.
Yeah, that sacrifice is needed. Wear a face mask. I think I'm one of the biggest preachers of that. Please, please, please help us get through this. Look, we're trying to get back to a normal life as we kind of know it. But like you said, it's going to be a different normal. And I love that you touched on it already. Of course, a lot of eyes, Dr. Walton, are on the NBA, especially this week, because we all know what happens. Just reminding everyone, you are a senior career counselor at the NBPA. You're one of 4 career development counselors. You help players transition to life after basketball. Because yes, as much as we all love basketball, it does have an ending date. Our bodies usually tell us so, and you work with 8 teams with that. But I know really this week, I think a lot of news went onto the basketball players, of course, after Paul George kind of talked about his struggles in the bubble and talked about just the importance of the conversation of mental health basically came back up. I know many are saying, like, you know, we don't think about it. People are like, these guys are being paid millions, Dr. Walton, to play basketball. They're supposed to just do their jobs. But we're not even thinking about, many of us are trying to get used to still being kind of stuck in our apartments, our houses, or wherever you're living, and not being able to do what we did before, right? We're not able to just go outside and play basketball and hoop. We're not able to go out with our friends as much. You know, we're not able to sit down at a restaurant, something that many of us probably took for granted before. And so you said you're in communication with them. What's this communication like with them? What have your conversations been like with the players that you're in touch with?
Well, first, let me just give a side note that this kind of situation that we're in is unprecedented, and it was unpredictable, right? And so Paul George, as you alluded to, came out and talked about some of the frustrations, some of the stress, some of the depression he's experienced. But a week before that, I think which eased it a little bit was former First Lady Michelle Obama came out and talked about this is just wearing her down. This is very stressful. And I think all of us, if you are in the media particularly, and if you are a fan of the media, just in terms of watching and keeping abreast of what's going on, you will feel the same way. I was at that situation, at that point in my life about a month ago where I just had to shut it down because I was getting inundated with this information about our lives and what was going on. And I was just like, okay, wait a minute, let's just take a step back and re-energize yourself, right? But to get on to my conversation with players, you know, before the players made a decision not to play, it was just trying to fill out how they're doing. You know, how you doing? You're away from your family, you're away from your normal routine, and you still have to play. This has never happened before. And you've made a commitment to do possibly for 3 months in a bubble, right? So that's a big commitment. being away from the kids, being away from the wife. We talked about those kind of things. But we also talked about, and we're kind of responsible, career development is for creating opportunities and information and education around things that they could take advantage of since they didn't have a whole lot to do.
Right. You're just sitting in your room, right? When you're not playing basketball.
So we came up with all these virtual programs from real estate to technology to entertainment to art, all these different things. And what we did was we took the experts from those respective fields and we videoed them and we did them live. So we did them live so players could join. And if they didn't join, they were taped so they can view them at their leisure. So they still had some things to do if they really wanted to take advantage of it. But I'm always just trying to fill out the players to see where you're at and how can I help you get through this point in time, whether it's during the pandemic or whether it's the off season or whether it's during the middle of the season. That's my job. That's my responsibility. I want to be there for players. I want to help them go where they want to go while they're playing and after they're playing. And so I want to establish a great relationship with them. And I've been very fortunate to be able to do that over 20 years.
Yes, you know what you're doing, basically. That's all that says, right, Dr. Walton? You know what you're doing. You're a man that's leading the charge in his job. And I think I love that you touched on that. And it's great to know that they had that opportunity. Because again, there's only so much you can do in that bubble. Eventually, you're probably going to get tired of seeing your teammates and your coaches. I've had enough of y'all. We've been playing basketball all day. And you're going to want to do something different. So why not advance yourself? Why not try to advance your career, what you know and your knowledge? I think that's great. And then, of course, we also know when the decision was made to quote unquote not play, right? They weren't playing. We understood there was a stoppage. All games were postponed. I'm sure they had even more time. Then, of course, reports came out that not all players felt that was the best way to kind of get their point across. And of course, we're talking about after the shooting death of Jacob Blake. And then, of course, today, NBA games are resuming. And, there's been, I know it's back, right? We got 3 series. We're so excited that basketball is back. But I know there was a lot of players, I'm sure, who just felt like, oh my gosh, like this was not my decision to not play, or this was my decision to play. How do we make the most impact? How do we show that we are involved in the world, even though we are in this bubble when Black men, like many of us, because of course we know the NBA is predominantly Black, how do we still make a difference? And so I can only imagine, Dr. Walton, what was going through their head at that time, trying to play basketball to the best of your ability, trying to compete, but then also, of course, trying to make sure that you show that you stand with the people, that you stand with your community from which you come from, and that you are also not immune, to what can happen. Because a lot of these players have talked about being profiled themselves by police officers. Many of them have had crazy encounters, right, with police officers. So there's many different things that have happened. So you being there, I think it's just probably a great outlet for them to have to talk with you about just what's going on in the world and what's happening. So thank you for sharing that insight into what you've been talking with the players.
Well, Kelsey, we have about 330 players in the bubble.
Right.
And my grandmother told me many, many years ago, when I was dating someone, she said, and I would say, oh, she doesn't understand, she doesn't know, she has a different opinion. She said, well, anytime there's 2 people and they both agree, one is not needed. So we're going to have 330 possibly different opinions and perspectives about what people should do and what they shouldn't do. So that had to be taken into consideration. Nobody's right or wrong, right? So I've talked to players who said, I don't want to be a part of the bubble. I want to stay home in my community and help these different organizations with this social activism.
Right.
Then there were other players that like, I want to use the NBA platform to be able to do this and still play. Right. My personal position was you need to do what you're more comfortable with. That's number one. Okay. But my personal feeling was that this was a binary opportunity. Right. You can use the NBA platform, do all the social activism that you want after the game, before the game. You could do it while you're in your room. And then you also could play the game. Right. You could play the game, still entertain people. And when you're entertaining people, fortunately enough, you're making quite a bit of money. Where you can also support some of the organizations that are on the front lines. But I supported the players as a whole. So it didn't matter really to me what your choice was, just long as you knew all the options and the consequences of your choices. I'm glad that they were able to sit in a room by themselves at one point and just talk about the perspectives, the consequences, the opportunities, and come out unified. I'm extremely happy for them. I really am. I was so proud of them to be able to do that, to make a decision. Because, I played a long time ago, Kelsey. There's no way possible that you could have thought of not playing the game and not suffer real consequences. Okay. And I'm talking about even the stars. So for them to get to the point where they can create their own narrative and make their own decision, I'm extremely happy for them and proud that they were able to take advantage of it.
I love that. Proud that they were able to take advantage of it. It's huge. And I'm so glad, Dr. Walton, that they're not shut up and dribbling, that they're having a voice, they're having their opinion. Like, I might as well ask your opinion on that. When we have these people, these narratives of saying, you're paid to play basketball, we don't pay to watch you all give your perspectives or opinions. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm Dr. Lloyd Walton. Right? So, I came from a family and a community that talked about your education.
Right.
And certainly basketball wasn't what it is today.
Right.
And our family and our community were always insisting upon you taking your education serious. Right. So in doing that, so many of us had an opportunity to do so many different other things. Right. It wasn't just about sports. Right. And even if you were successful in sports, you still had the what I'm going to call it, a foundation. Right. About education and being able to do other things instead of just this physical thing that you would do, throwing a ball, right? Running back, all that kind of stuff. But what about your mind? How good is your mind? Has it been exercised? Have you read a book, right?
Yes.
So when I heard that comment about, shut up and dribble, I'm like, who are you talking to?
Right.
I mean, seriously, do you really think that our players are only capable of dribbling a basketball, throwing a football, hitting a baseball? I mean, seriously, we have very intelligent young men. Right. Now, they've done what most people done who've been successful in other industries. They put most of their focus and resource into being the best basketball player they can become. Right. Now, think about Malcolm Gladwell's book, who says in time you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you become an expert. All of these young men have spent plus 10,000 hours doing what they do as basketball players.
Right.
They will leave that. They will find another passion, another industry, and they will begin to spend 10,000 hours, right? So they can be successful in that. We will never, ever, ever just be an athlete to shut up and dribble.
So powerful. Mic drop, interview done. No, but I mean, that's powerful. It really is. And I think that's so much more. I mean, basketball is what they do. It's not who they are. They were individuals long before basketball, and they will continue to be individuals after basketball. So I think that's one of the most offensive things that people can say, because nobody else would want them to say, just shut up and go to work. No, you're a human being. You have opinions and thoughts. And it might not be everybody else's opinions and thoughts, but that's why we're all different people. And that's why we're not the same people. And it's supposed to just be us being able to come to the table and have a different conversation. But there is a problem in this country that I think needs to be addressed. And I do think, on my personal opinion, if you have a platform, you need to use it for a purpose. And I'm so glad that the NBA did what they did, because of course what they did, it kind of spurred other leagues. We saw what happened in Major League Baseball, right, with postponing games, Major League Soccer, even the Hockey League, National Hockey League came around and postponed games. That started from what the NBA players, that conversation that they had, because people again see that there's a problem. I think allies saw that they need to rally with their Black brothers and sisters and say, look, we need to address this here and now. So I understand it was only postponed a couple of days. We're back playing, but I do also think there is power in playing and continuing to spread the message of Black Lives Matter, and hopefully getting us to a point in this country where we don't have to teach our kids to be afraid of the police, to be afraid of losing their lives. That's my hope and goal, Dr. Walton, that we get there one day, hopefully in our lifetime.
I'm with you on that, because I have grandkids now, and I have 3 male grandkids.
Wow.
And I always think about that. I'm concerned about them being able to have the ability to grow up without fear.
Right.
I grew up with fear. As a man, I still have that kind of a fear. Anytime I see the police, honestly, and certainly if the light come on. Now, I haven't been stopped by the police in years, but certainly when I went through the process and transitioned from college to playing in the NBA, you're able to have a little bit of money, you buy your nice car, you move in a different kind of neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, almost every other day, every other week, the police are stopping you and asking you, where you going? Like, don't I have the freedom to move about as I please?
Yeah.
But I'm
bothering anybody.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm concerned about these young people having this same opportunity. We're at a time now where everybody's attention has been garnered. Right. Okay. But that's only just the beginning. I truly believe that we need to look at bringing into the room the NFL, Major League Baseball, and hockey. Bring them in the room. Okay. Yeah. And we need to have a serious conversation and listen to all the different perspectives through this journey and their opinions about how we address this. I mean, listening to our white brothers, okay? And them listening to us to understand what we're going through and how they can help us. And then we have to, in my opinion, I think that the owners of these respective teams, think about this, Kelsey, are billionaires, right?
Yeah.
Who do the owners give their money to? One entity that they give their money to is politicians.
Yep.
Right? Politicians will never turn down a donation.
Not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
So let's bring our owners in, since they want to know what we can do. Let's bring our owners in and say, hey, this is what I need you to do. I need you to support me, right? As we talk to these politicians, these legislative bodies, these senators, etc., about some of the police reform that we need, right? Some of the I'm trying to say, when you get arrested, right?
Yeah. Reentry, right?
Reentry, right?
Yep.
All of these kinds of things we can address with the power that we have, but we have to use it the right way, and we can't lose this momentum.
Right.
The fact of the matter, I thought we lost a little of the momentum just in terms of talking about our social issues after the games. When we first started, guys were right on it. As soon as the game was over, they were doing their presser. They would talk about it a little bit. But the games got better. Time went on. And I think we kind of lost that and didn't say it as much.
Right.
Now we're having an opportunity to revisit that and to be strong and to be focused and to continue that, as well as continue for these actionable items that we need to come up with so we can keep this journey moving forward.
You're right. Keep that momentum, keep that journey moving forward, because racism has been a pandemic that has plagued this country since its inception. Let's not act like this is a brand new pandemic like COVID-19 was.
Right.
It's just it's more like the cut's bleeding more. And now more people all of a sudden are starting to see it. But it's something that is just, we have to solve. It's a problem. People are just asking for respect. No one's asking to be treated better than anybody else. It's just a respect issue. And we just want the same opportunity. Everyone should have the opportunity to live and to breathe in this country. People fight to get into this country, right? Because I still believe it's one of the greatest countries in the world, but we're family, but all families have growing pains. This is a true growing pain that has been there for a long time. But I think we need to keep the momentum on the issue. And Dr. Walton, you brought up an important point. I know you're from Chicago Heights. Just talk about your growing up there and kind of how it helped to shape your perspectives now as a Black man, the third NBA player to get his doctorate. I mean, what does that mean for a man from Chicago Heights?
Wow. First of all, I'll tell you this. Nobody thought this was possible. Okay?
But look at you now, right?
All right. I wasn't a student that loved school by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. I
had my trials and tribulations going through school, not wanting to be there, wondering are we forced to go to school? But when I fell in love with basketball, it was really, it really provoked me to want to have to go, right? So if you want to play, you got to go, right?
Right.
But I still was never in love with it. I remember just looking out the window almost at every level from grammar school to high school to college and saying, man, if I get out of here, I'll never go back to school again. That was my thinking. But, growing up, I think all of my friends that I grew up with, we all basically had the same desires, the same goals. And that was initially just to be able to get a diploma from high school.
Yeah.
And for those of us who kind of transition into sports at a higher level, then it was like, maybe I can go to college for free, right? That
nice.
scholarship, right?
Yes.
And I was very, very fortunate. I just have to throw this in. This is part of my book too, is that I was given a scholarship to go play basketball and be educated in high school, about 25 miles from where I lived.
Right.
Okay. This was unheard of.
Yeah.
So a man came and found me. He said he saw me playing basketball in the neighborhood at the Park District for a while. And so he offered me a scholarship to go 25 miles away. He picked me up every day.
Wow.
Drove me to school.
Yeah.
And after practice, he brought me home. And my friends and I have talked about this because some say, he changed your life, but I believe seriously, he might have saved my life. Wow. I grew up in a really, really tough neighborhood. A tough community, and a lot of my friends were either, unfortunately, have passed away, have been incarcerated, on drugs and what have you. So I'm very, very fortunate. But my uncle who raised me, I lived with my uncle. He went to work every day. I mean, without hesitation, he went to work every single day. His wife fixed his lunch. He carried his lunch. He went to work. And the thing about it is that most of the men in the community had a job. Now, and they took care of their families, because I can remember as my friends and I would walk home from school, they would say, hey, come here, let me see that report card, right? And, if you got a C or D or something, they pop your upside the head. You can do better. I expect you to do better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And here's
True
50%
Black
or
family.
something.
Yes.
Yeah. So, education, getting an education was everywhere. You always heard it, right?
Yeah.
And the further I went along, going to Marquette, playing for a national championship just as a sophomore.
Yes.
What
a team that was too.
that was huge, right?
Yeah.
To be able to do that. And then beginning to realize that there's other things in life besides basketball. Because if you're honest with yourself, you realize I may not make it to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So then what am I going to do?
What's next? Right.
And my feeling was that, I would go into, radio and TV.
Yeah.
And so I took those kind of classes. I got my degree in speech communication,
mm-hmm.
my undergrad, and that's what I was going to do.
Right.
But I love the game, but I realized that I might not make it. And I was very, very fortunate and I'm blessed. I realize that to this day to be able to play in the NBA. But in the back of my mind, I always thought about, okay, well, what are you going to do, man? One thing I didn't want to do, Kelsey,
mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go back home and stay in my mom's basement.
Oh no, we weren't doing that, Dr. Walton.
Yeah, I mean, but
we're independent now.
So many people did, but I didn't want to do
something
that.
Different.
Yeah. I wanted something different. I wanted to make a difference in my life for those that came behind me.
Right.
And that kind of conversation that I had with my grandmother, like education is going to be your way out, just mm-hmm. resonated with me over and over and over and over. That I believe that I can really make a difference. I can achieve what I want to. Yeah. Right. So, going back to school after I was out of the NBA for a couple of years, I was like, okay, I'm watching how people matriculate through these different systems, right, with work. Right. And I'm like, I started listening to people like, well, how did you become a manager? How did you become a director?
Yeah.
And so the bottom line was that, you need to go back to school. You need to learn. You need to be trained. You need to do all those kinds of things. And I was like, I'm up for the task.
Right.
And, I had some great mentors. I started going to trainings. I started listening even more intently. And so I went back to school and I got a master's degree. But I honestly will say it again.
Yeah.
I walked across that stage and I was like, I will never go back to school again.
We all say that.
I'm not doing it.
That other degree, right?
Lo and behold, as I got out into this real working world, and I believed, and I look at my life and I said, there's got to be something else.
Yeah.
And that something else was getting a doctorate. And I know most of my friends and family say it's not possible, right? And there were nights and there were days when I felt like it wasn't possible. And who came up with this idea? I don't regret one moment of it.
I love that.
To be able to tell my grandkids that, I played sports at the highest level in the NBA.
Right.
But also educationally, I have a degree at the highest level. I have a doctorate. That's my greatest accomplishment in my life. Besides, nothing compares to that to me.
Wow.
Okay, seriously, because I know what work I had to put into it. I didn't walk into a classroom and they said, "Oh, he's on the team." There was no team, right? I didn't get a break and not have to write that research paper over. Right. I didn't get a break for turning it if I turned it in late or anything like that. I had to do it and I had to do it right. And I know that from the depths of my soul, I know I had to do it right, and I did it. And I achieved what I wanted to achieve. That's why next thing I said, well, I'm gonna write a book. So the book should be out in 60 days. So
nice. We're gonna get that on our radars. It's exciting. And I think that's the fun thing about life, Dr. Walton, is that you just never know what's next. I'm sure you said it. I know you've talked about, like, at one point you didn't even like school. You've wrote a book now. I mean, talk about just the difference in that. And I know in past interviews you even talked about, I think you said at one point in high school you had like 5 Fs on your report card.
Where did you hear that from? Who told you that?
I do my research, Dr.
Wow.
Walton.
Oh my God.
5 Fs on your report card to having a doctorate. I think the importance of a Black man, your community seeing that you are a Black man with a doctorate, but also not even just a Black man, a former NBA player with a doctorate. We don't get to say that many times. I think it's huge as you look at NBA players who actually completed their degree. And it's different because, of course, we know about the one and done. And of course, now we have the NBA G League going to prominence. So some high school players forget college. But as you said, basketball has an ending point. You know, the average lifespan in the NBA is like 4.7 years. It's only so long that you're going to be able to play. And of course, not everyone's going to be your LeBron James, right? That's why LeBron is LeBron James. And of course, I mean, you can have a long career, but the money part, because we've, as a journalist, Dr. Walton, I've also done that broke NBA player story way too many times. And it's just, it's disheartening, not even just broke NBA player, broke athletes in general. I know you talked about previously too, how you went from an MBA career to getting your first job in Chicago. You know, you get your paycheck, you're excited, right? We all love payday. Come on, we all count down the payday. Look at that paycheck, Dr. Walton. It wasn't the same as that MBA paycheck.
Kelsey, you are so good. Well, anyway, yeah, that's the story. That's a true story. You were great at your research.
Thank you.
You are really good.
I have to do my job.
You do an excellent job. So yeah, let me just tell you this. So yeah, I get the check, I throw it in my briefcase.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving home, and I'm at a red light, and I remembered, oh yeah, you got paid. So open up the briefcase, and I look at the check, and I was like, oh no, I can't do this. You know, I had a child on the way, and I can't do this. So that was the impetus also of me going back to school to get
more money. Look, we needed some more commas and some more zeros on that paycheck.
Oh God, you're really, really good. Yeah. So that was what I came up with, right? If you want more money, you got to have more credentials, Lloyd. Go back to school.
Right.
And then we go back to another thing about the 5 Fs. I didn't know you had found that out, but yeah.
Sorry to expose you, Dr. Walton.
No. It's cool. It's in the book. Okay. I'm transparent. But here's the thing. Unfortunately, you know, being able to go to school and play basketball and score 25 points a game was more important than them insisting upon me doing what I needed to do in the classroom.
Right.
And all these letters are coming in, being recruited, right? And universities showing interest.
Yeah.
I will always look back on that, and I always will tell parents, coaches, don't let them sacrifice the opportunity to learn to play the sport. I was just very, very fortunate.
Right.
Because it's going to come back to haunt them. Okay. Right. And if I look back in retrospect and think about what I would do differently, what would I tell my 15-year-old self? I would say, take your academics seriously and don't waste time.
Yeah.
And I try to tell my grandkids that. I just sent them some information the other day. I want them to be just as smart as they can be. I want them to be knowledgeable. I want them to be aware of what's going on in the world.
Right.
And the bottom line, at the end of the day, you can make a contribution to this world that you live in.
Yes.
So again, kudos to you doing all this great research.
I got to know my guest, Dr. Walton. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing my job. And I think it's just so important that you share that story, because I don't think that story shared often enough. Like, I was kind of the opposite kid, where I was kind of always good at school, Dr. Walton. It just came natural, right? So for me, you know, and then I have my master's degree. I'm thinking about getting my doctorate degree. I'm a college professor now, though, so that's a little bit pushed off. But, you know, it's just, you never imagine that. And still, even me, I never, you know, thought that. But it's just, you know, I end every email, Dr. Walton, with my favorite quote from Oprah Winfrey: education is the key to unlocking the world, a passport to freedom. I'm a big proponent of education. I think even here in DC, you know, talking about sports and education, our point god, John Wall, you know, 5-time All-Star, he's working towards his business degree at the University of Kentucky. And of course, Wall has made over $100 million in his career. He's a great basketball player. He talks about coaching and life after, but a player like him going back to Kentucky and getting his degree. And I don't know if people saw the video, but, you know, people at the University of Kentucky are like, oh my gosh, I'm in a business class with John Wall. Like, how cool is that? But it's more important that he's in that class, making sure he finished his degree, right? Because we know one and done in college, we know his talent on the court, but I think that speaks so many volumes. I don't think that story's told enough. Like you said, I mean, not everyone's going to get to be the greatest level. And even if you are at the greatest level, I think Shaquille O'Neal had one of the greatest stories. He got tired of being in the room of people talking about him and his business things, now talking to him. Right. So that's why it's so important to get your degree. And I'm sure there's nothing like that feeling. I mean, take me back to that moment, Dr. Walton, when you walked across the stage with your doctorate degree. Like, what did that mean to you? What did that feel like?
I went into this zone of thinking about those people, particularly my family members, who supported me and insisted that I do better.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, who passed away at 96, would always say that how much she loved school. But she only went to the 3rd grade because she had to go work in the fields and pick cotton in Alabama.
Wow.
And she didn't understand why young people would go to school not learn and be disruptive. So I thought a lot about those kinds of things as I walked across that stage, and I was looking at my mom. And the craziest thing happened when I got off the stage, and she comes up and gives me a hug, and she says, "And just think, son, you hated school." I said, "No, Mom, I still hate it." Right. So, but and I'll tell you one other thing that's really, really big. There's 2 side notes real quick. Carlos Boozer just finished his degree at Duke.
Yes, I love that.
Right?
And at Duke University, look,
yes.
that just means something.
Yeah, just went back and finished, got it last week. But, being able to achieve this as a doctorate, I guess the greatest feeling in the world is that when that first person who doesn't know you, okay, calls you and they have to reference you as doctor.
Oh, it's a difference. It's a difference.
It's a different world. It's a different world, and it's a different feeling that I could not have imagined, prior to it happening.
Yeah.
It's real special. I don't take it for granted. But I don't necessarily think that I'm special at all. I'm different. I just put in the work. It's kind of like becoming a better ball player. You put in the work, you'll get better. God blessed me with the faculties to be able to use them if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And my mentors always supported me, and my mom, who's my rock, was right there. So yeah, I've been surrounded by good people. I've been very fortunate.
I love that, just being surrounded by good people. And I want to stay on special moments because I'd be remiss if we didn't talk Marquette basketball with you while you're here. A special moment that you kind of touched on earlier. You helped to lead the Warriors to the 1974 NCAA Championship game. Of course, I know you guys fell up short going against North Carolina State. But since we didn't have March Madness this year, we're all kind of deprived. We didn't get our college basketball that we like. Just talk about that moment for you. You talked about it being a sophomore, getting to a game that big, almost winning the championship. What was that like, Dr. Walton?
Well, let me say, I was teamed with 5 other high school All-Americans. First of all,
yeah.
So when you're surrounded and you have a team of those kind of guys, all of us had been successful in our own rights before we got there.
Yeah.
So we believed that we were winners and we were supposed to win.
Yeah.
Now we had a different relationship because our coach was very, very flamboyant. He had, as they say today, he had unbelievable swag, but he had a real purpose and meaning in his life regarding his players.
Right.
He always talked about, as you alluded to earlier, basketball is what you do, is not who you are. He insisted that you get your degree. Okay, I mean, he was insistent upon that. If a guy went through 4 years of school, his athletic scholarship may be gone, but if you left in good standings, nothing happened, you could come back and they would pay for you to get your degree.
Amazing.
But we had a great year that year, and people don't realize things were structured so differently. We were independent schools, so we had to win a lot of games. We couldn't lose very many and stuff like that. So
right.
Getting to the national championship, we all thought we were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Probably like the other top 10 teams. What do you mean? We surprised? We're supposed to be here.
Right.
But we played North Carolina State. And of course, people probably don't remember David Thompson was, who was a combination of LeBron and Zion. At this point, he jumped a 42-inch vertical, all that kind of stuff. But it was the journey that meant more than anything else. Yeah, right. I really wish I had won. It took me 36 years to actually watch the tape.
Wow.
And when I looked at the tape, I was like, they should have beat us by 50. We played so bad. But it was the actual journey. And I truly believe, because I've heard it from time to time, but I didn't understand it for a while, that, it's going to be great, the accomplishment that you get, but the journey you have to enjoy along the way. There are things that happen that look like little things, right?
Right.
But when you enjoy that moment, when you finally get there, it'll be even more gratifying. Yeah. So don't let the journey be minuscule, to be an afterthought. Enjoy that journey. And that's what it was when I look back. I have friends for life because of that. One of my best friends, unfortunately, not here any longer, Maurice Lucas, became one of my best friends in life. Bo Ellis was my roommate. We were in the room when he designed our jerseys that the NCAA outlawed 4 years later. Wouldn't let teams wear them. Butch Lee texted me last night. So, these things, these sports teams can really become your lifelong support. And that's what it became for me. And I tell parents all the time, I learned so much in terms of characteristics about life that helped me when I went into the working world, when I went for my doctorate, that I learned just from sports. Leadership, teamwork, hard work, time management. I just go on and on. All these are transferable skills that you gain. So I've just been very, very fortunate and blessed Kelsey. Really, I
Yeah.
think God has blessed me beyond what I deserve.
Yeah, I love that. That's so powerful. And I think today, I think we're all learning that more and more. Just, life is precious. And I think, take every moment just with stride, enjoy the moment, live in the moment. And again, you've had just a phenomenal career. You also helped to lead Marquette to a number 2 ranking in 1976, which is just truly, truly, truly amazing. You were a 3rd round pick of the Milwaukee Bucks in the 1976 NBA draft. Let's talk about a little bit your NBA career, that transition. I know it's not always easy for everyone. What was that transition like to the NBA, Dr. Walton?
To the NBA?
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. Again, as I talked about earlier,
yeah,
I knew that I might not make it.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, it was only 2014, something like that. There was 285 players in the league, not like 450 today.
Yeah.
Okay? So, getting the opportunity was going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
But I just kept believing in myself. And I got drafted. First of all, I felt that I should have went higher, like most guys do.
Right.
Yeah, I got to say, you got to read the book because Jerry Krause is in the book. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Jerry Krause kind of just bird dogged me for like 4 or 5 months.
What?
Because he worked for an agent. And he wanted me to go with this agent.
Yeah.
2 weeks before the draft, Jerry Krause becomes the general manager of the Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know I'm going late 1st round, early 2nd.
Right. You're like, Jerry's there.
I'm in. Chicago's my hometown. I'm in.
Right.
And he didn't pick me.
Wow.
And oftentimes I even told the guy, there was 2 guys that went, and this is crazy. When I see players get angry or disappointed, even pissed off because players went ahead of them.
Yeah.
I still remember to this day the 2 players that went ahead of me, and I had a longer career, and I still feel I was better.
Wow.
He drafted Willie Smith in the 2nd round, who went to Missouri.
Uh-huh.
Willie Smith lasted all of training camp, and he was done.
Wow.
Larry Smith, I think it was drafted by the Washington then Bullets, so not the Wizards.
We missed that name too.
Yeah. So, I always thought about how did these guys go before me? I was killing them in the All-Star games and stuff like that. Nevertheless, I think it was a little bit of motivation, but so that's what it was going into the NBA. Now I know there were 6 guards that the Bucks had when they drafted me. Can you believe that? 6?
Wow.
So I know I'm not going to make this team. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What I didn't understand and wasn't aware of was the business of basketball. How organizations are going to rebuild if they're not where they want to be. Right. And I didn't know that they were going into a rebuilding year. They took Quinn Buckner, who was a childhood rival, grew up like 20 minutes from me, who was on Indiana's team, the last team to go undefeated in the country. They took him number 1. So they had other guys. So I'm like, there's no way I can make this team. But anyway, going to training camp, just keep working hard. Every week almost they traded somebody.
Oh my
so
gosh,
I kept moving up. Next thing you know, hey, I made the team. Right?
I'm here.
Right. And that was really, really special because that was my dream, that I would be able to make it to the NBA. And God in his infinite wisdom gives you what he wants you to have. Yeah. Not necessarily what you want. And even though I wanted it, he gave it to me because he wanted me to have it. And I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. To be able to play a game of basketball that I started running around on the playground with short pants on, just chasing a ball, and now I'm playing it at the highest level and getting a check. Amazing. Oh, this can't be true.
Life coming full circle, right?
Right,
like literally. Right. I love that. I love that. And to talk about like your career, I want to stay on that because also back in 2016, you also did something special talking about your career in basketball. You got inducted into the M Club Hall of Fame, one of 7 members of the 2016 class. Dr. Walton, that's huge. You're forever enshrined into history at Marquette University. What was that feeling like for you to go back and be honored by your great university?
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
I'm really transparent. So when they called me and told me, my response was, well, what the hell took so long?
I've been waiting.
Right. I was honored. It was something that I thought that I earned, that I should have been. Yeah. And I'm forever grateful, man, because a couple of reasons. I think about my mom sitting in the audience. I think about my son, my youngest son was there. To get that kind of honor bestowed upon you is really, really special, man. And I mean, I look back at all the great players that I knew that came before me
Yeah.
that were honored as well to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I feel really good about that. It's special, you know. Like I said, God, what He's done to me, man. Look, I couldn't have paid for this kind of stuff.
I absolutely love that. And again, what a great university, you know, and just, I hope we get some college basketball, Dr. Walton, so you can see what they do this year. You think y'all will be pretty good this season? Should we have one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I spoke with the team, last spring, and then I was on a Zoom virtual call with them.
Nice.
When the pandemic hit and then all the social unrest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be pretty doggone good this year.
Good. We need some good basketball, especially in the Big East. So we want some good college basketball. And actually staying on that, might as well talk about Jimmy Butler, who, of course, Marquette University, a player with a degree. I mean, just talk about the great things that come from Marquette. But again, I think we're just all so excited, Dr. Walton. You just a true joy. The book, you said 60 days from now, right?
Yes. Let me just show you the cover.
Yes, please do. We want to see the book.
So here's the cover.
Yeah.
It's the name of the book is First and 40.
Okay.
And I just want to say that picture on the cover was taken in 1941.
Wow.
Those are all of the women and my grandfather, my great grandfather and grandmother and their kids. Yeah. 3 of them had passed away, right?
Wow.
And my great grandfather's the only male on the picture.
Yeah. Wow.
Because they had a son, he lived for 3 months and he passed away. Wow. None of those women, which there was 11 of them, had any male children.
Wow.
Okay, so now the name comes because I was the first male child born in my family in 40 years.
Wow.
First and 40.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll say this, one of my friends, and he was there in Washington for many, many years, did a hell of a job on the forward. Michael Wilbon wrote the forward.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. I love that. Oh, we're so excited for that. Geez, wow, first male in 40 years.
In 40 years. So you know what kind of, I'm spoiled.
But you help to break the curse since you have a son.
Yes.
Hopefully y'all don't have to wait that much longer for more males in the family.
No, we got so many more. We have many now. I have 3 of my own, and so yeah, we're good now.
I love that. And Dr. Walton, before I let you go, I just do want to go back to the education point. I think it's so important to talk about because I don't think people realize I think it's hard, right? I'm sure you talk to many kids and every kid, thinks they're going to make it in the NBA or whatever sports league and that they're going to be the greatest players. But I just want to break down the numbers. In the NBA, it's estimated 21% of players have college degrees. In Major League Baseball, it's 4.3%. But of course, Major League Baseball is much different because you don't need the college ranks, right? You can go pro at a much earlier age, so it makes sense. And then in the NFL, 5 out of every 10 players fail to earn a college degree. So before I let you go, just what message do you have for any athletes out there, collegiate athletes or even high school athletes, about just the importance of getting your college degree, whether it be when you're in college or going back after and making sure that you complete and finish your degree?
See, I believe that your education is your foundation for life. Mm-hmm. Okay. No matter what you do athletically.
Right.
A lot of situations have come up over the 21 years that I've been there is that players had to answer to their kids because they became parents and they said, well, you got to go to class and you got to do this and that. Right. And the questions that came from their kids were, well, did you get your degree?
And kids will do that.
Exactly. Do that. Right.
Yes.
So, and my education allowed me to become a productive member of society.
Right.
It allows you to become self-sufficient in many, many, many ways.
Yeah.
It opens up unbelievable amount of doors.
Yeah.
Some people said education is the way out. Some people say it's the way in. I say it is the necessary evil for people like me.
Yes. I love that. I love that, Dr. Walton. Again, just thank you so much for your time and coming on this show. I think it's such an important message. I hope you're not a stranger to the show. Before I let you go, I might as well ask you, are the Bucks going to win it all this year?
I'm very hesitant because we're in uncharted waters, being in a bubble, right? So there's no home court advantage and anything like that.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic and all the racial unrest, this is hard to choose.
It
right?
is.
Of course, they drafted me. I'm very, very close with almost everybody on that team.
Yeah.
I would love for them to win it. Well, what the hell? I'm going with them. Yeah, let's go with the Bucks.
Bucks win it all, right?
That's right. That's right.
Exciting to watch. And hopefully next season, best wishes to your Chicago Bulls. Of course, we want something good for them, Dr. Walton.
We got to get a coach.
Use that pick right. Yeah. Do you have any favorites for coach?
Gosh, I shouldn't even say this, but I will say it though. I know a lot of guys who could do the job.
Right.
My pick was because we established a relationship when he was a player, and he's done extremely well since then, is Adrian Griffin. Ooh, he's the number one assistant for Toronto Raptors. He won a championship with Dallas. He won a championship, obviously, last year with Toronto. He's a real professional. And I'm the third player in the history of the NBA to earn a doctorate. He will be the fourth. He's just about finished.
We love that. We love that. How perfect is that? Well, look, I think he would do great things in Chicago. We want to get things, back to that greatness level you talked about, Jerry. We, of course, all watched The Last Dance. We want that. We want those times back in Chicago, Dr. Walton. Chicago,
it'd be nice. It'd be nice.
Right? Oh my gosh, which is such a good time. Chicago's very own. And also, Dr. Walton, before I let you go, I might as well ask you on this. I feel like there's been a lot of narrative about Chicago. A lot of people keep using them as an example. Well, we don't want, and I have family from Chicago, so I probably feel like you. But what do you think about this negative narrative about Chicago that's going on? People talking about Black on Black crime and just the violence in Chicago. Since you're from Chicago, just any input on that or any insight you like to just tell people about your city?
I love my city, first and foremost. Let me preface everything I say with that. There have been some things that happened in our city that I'm not proud of. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of.
Yeah. And
that part is the looting part that took place. We have had a number of different factions that were peacefully protesting, right? Like they should be.
Yeah.
And then you have this faction of people who made a decision, a conscious decision, that they were going to destroy businesses and take things that wasn't theirs.
Right.
That's untenable. Okay. Yeah. There's nothing you can tell me to explain why you would do that, period.
Right.
And you deserved to be held to the highest extent of the law, to be charged and held to the high extent of the law. I think that when we look at, there's so many different things I could talk about when we talk about the Black on Black crime around the country, not just Chicago.
Right.
When you create a community with only one type and kind of people in that community, you're going to find the kind of opposition with each other that you won't find anywhere else, because this is the population within that certain area.
Right.
Am I happy about that? Absolutely not. I just don't see it. I was having this conversation coming out the elevator today with a friend of mine. We're talking about, he's a police officer. I don't even understand how you kill somebody. I mean, I'm saying, like, if you're not doing something to me or someone I love, I don't even understand me even thinking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a long lasting situation with the psychology of people in our community, thinking that taking someone's life is going to resolve an issue that you have. This really is not war. And not only is not war, we don't own a whole lot to be fighting over, right?
Yeah.
And we have to think about those kinds of things.
Right.
Our young men, there's so much help that they need. Because I know deep down inside, they don't want to live like that.
I know.
They don't want to hurt other people.
Yeah.
They want to live a decent, respectful life too.
Right.
They have been so disenfranchised for so long and without opportunities and resources.
Yeah.
They feel like this is the only way and this is all that they can do. We have so much work to do. Oh, man. I love them.
Yeah.
I love them because I know they're a reflection of me. And I've told many people, and I've tried to be as much as I can to many as I can. And I will always do that. Because there's always a better way and there's always a way out.
Yes.
But we have to show them and give it to them for them to be able to take advantage of. And I'm willing, able, and ready to do that in a heartbeat.
So powerful. Dr. Walton, I'm sorry we had to end on this note, but I did want you to touch on it again, being from the city. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. And just thank you. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
all you're doing. Thank you for coming on this show. And I'm excited to see the NBA in better hands because of people like you. So again,
thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited. 60 days counting down.
Yeah.
I'm going to order the book. I cannot wait to read it front to back. So excited. And again, just applauding you. And hopefully when I have you on the show in the future, we'll be talking about double-digit numbers of NBA
How about that?
have their doctorate. Then we're going to feel like we've gotten somewhere, Dr. Walton. Double digits. We're going to get to that. I believe it. But I thank you so much for coming on the show again. Best wishes. Please stay safe with COVID. Send the grandbabies love from the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. And you're unbelievable.
Thank you.
You're
so
unbelievable.
Much.
You have a great journey and a great future. I'm always here for you. Okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the playoff games today.
Yes. Stay safe and healthy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on the special live stream edition of Listen In with KNN. Of course, you just heard from Dr. Lloyd Walton, only the third NBA player in history to get his doctoral degree, doing great work with the NBPA. We'll be back on Thursday at 6 p.m. for a live stream edition. I'm super excited to welcome in AEW star Sean Spears. So yes, we'll be talking lots of wrestling. And then next Saturday at 2 p.m., I'll be welcoming in Darren McFadden, of course, former Cowboys great. We're going to talk all the latest football, wrestling next week. And of course, as always, check out the audio version of my show. It drops every Tuesday at noon on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. And of course, you can always catch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. That'll do it for this week. Enjoy the weekend, stay safe, and please enjoy the NBA playoff games. We got great games today with the Magic and the Bucks, the Thunder, and the Rockets. And of course, tonight, the one we're all waiting for, the Trailblazers and the Lakers. Be sure to follow me on social media. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you as always for supporting the show. Special thank you to my team for never letting up and doing everything that I ask and even pushing me to do better. And as always, thanks to the loyal listeners of this show. I could not do it without you. Until next week, enjoy the sports world, smile, and please don't take your fantasy sports too seriously because there's always another play. Bye, guys.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM, Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.